disruptive.
America that I fuck.
Weird thing to happen. So there's some exciting news to share in the regards of free speech, ladies and gentlemen. The Australian government that was trying to silence out Elon Musk because they didn't want this tech billionaire to highlight a news story that was happening in Sydney, which was kind of confusing to begin with. Apparently, that court case was settled and Elon Musk scored victory. This is from Forbes magazine, even though it doesn't look like Forbes. I had to do this to avoid the paywall. It says Elon Musk's ex scores victory against Australian government over church stabbing videos. Musk has sparred with Australian lawmakers and officials over ex refusal to remove content of a church stabbing in Sydney worldwide. Which to this day, I'm still confused on why. Why would they cover up a news story that is very impactful to the people of Australia? I'm very confused about that. What was the whole intention of trying to hide this news story? Like, they knew people were going to talk about this. People witnessed the stabbing. They were there at the scene of the crime. Word is going to get out. So why would you care if social media posts were, advancing the story and showing people this? Like, why would you care? It was very, very confusing. But it says Elon Musk scored a victory against the Australian government on Monday after a court refused a request to extend the order, forcing X to hide the videos of a violent church stabbing. The latest step in a bitter feud pitting the free speech crusader billionaire against lawmakers, branding him as arrogant and lacking social responsibility. I remember that. It was on one of their morning talk shows. They're like, this U.S. billionaire has lacked social morale and responsibility. Well, what about your responsibility to inform your own public? You're trying to hide the biggest news story that's affecting Australians in your own country. Where's your responsibility? Pointing the finger at Elon Musk. That really shows the higher morale. Australia's federal court sided with Musk's social media platform over the country's digital regulator by refusing to extend a temporary court order for it to hide videos such of the Sydney church stabbing in April, which was caught on a live stream and declared a terrorist act by the government. The court previously granted an injunction blocking more than 60 posts showing footage of the attack on X, which e-safety commissioner Julie Inman Grant sought after X decide only hide the videos in Australia instead of removing them worldwide. Again, that's the even more confusing part was not only they allowed it to show elsewhere outside of Australia, but not in Australia. Do they think people are not going to talk to each other and actually reveal this stuff? Social media actually encourages people to be social. They're going to talk about news. They're going to talk about topics they've seen, and they're going to interact with each other. I don't get the intention of this. This is the dumbest thing. It's as dumb as the position of e-safety commissioner in Australia, which sounds like a very cushy job, honestly. You probably just sit back and just, delete. I don't know. What exactly makes you a e-safety commissioner? This order was due to expire on Monday, and Justice Gregory Kennett declined Inman Grant's request to extend it, according to news reports of the brief hearing. Kennett did not reveal the reasons for his decision, and the reasons for the judgment are expected to be released later on Monday. The matter has been listed for a court hearing on Wednesday, according to Reuters, and a final hearing is expected in mid-June. But I gotta tell you, it's, at least finally people are making some common sense on the fact that, a news story should not be censored out by the Australian government for only Australians. That makes absolutely no sense. And regardless of how people feel about Elon Musk, and I have certain, issues with Elon Musk, I do say this on behalf of X. I I think so far it's one of the top 3 platforms that has really advocated for the intentions of being a platform. When it comes to, not being censorious, not being, biased towards a political agenda, being very open and honest, um, as a platform should be, as social media should be encouraged. I think between like Rumble and in a lot of cases TikTok, X is definitely up there for being one of the most uh well established one of the established platforms for advocating for free speech, which is the whole point of being a social media platform compared to the others. And I'm glad to see this, turn around uh to remind people of that and to keep it away from governmental control, because the only that this is their last resort, is controlling the narrative. And if they can't control the narrative, then they have to silence out people. And if you've seen mafia movies, you know what that kind of means. Anyway, and here's also Michael Schellenberger, who's journalist, well renowned. He does his Substack public, and he's been testifying on against the Twitter files and stuff. Well, here's what he had to say about this. It's pretty fascinating.
Hey everybody, it's Mike Schellenberger for Public. Around the world, governments are trying to censor the internet, and not just for their own citizens. This reality was dismissed as a conspiracy theory until late April, when Australia demanded that social media platforms take down a violent video, and not just in Australia, but everywhere. All the social media platforms, including Facebook and Google, complied with the Australian government's demand, except for Elon Musk's X, which took the case to court. Australia's Prime Minister said Musk, quote, thinks he's above the law, and, quote, found it extraordinary that X chose not to comply and are trying to argue their case. A senator from Australia called for Musk to be jailed. But Musk's principled defense of free speech was vindicated a few hours ago when an Australian court ruled in Musk's favor, and Australia's top censor, known as the E-Safety Commissioner, dropped her lawsuit. This free speech victory isn't the end of the story, of course. Australia, like governments around the world, is determined to expand government censorship at all costs. We can expect they'll be back with fresh censorship demands any day now. But this is just the free speech victory that we needed right now. It comes 2 weeks before a major free speech event in Dublin on June 18th, where Russell Brand will join me and others in supporting our Irish friends in their efforts to kill a hate speech law, which would allow the police to invade people's homes and search their phones and computers for wrongthink. And the day after that, I am bringing journalists and free speech advocates from around the world to London to build our movement. We owe Musk a debt of gratitude for fighting for free speech. Actions speak louder than words, and Musk has demonstrated through his actions that he will defend freedom of speech. Unfortunately, Facebook and Google have demonstrated through their actions their cowardice and unreliability. As the COVID pandemic showed, they are more than willing to work with governments to censor their fellow citizens in violation of our constitutions and our fundamental human rights. It's time for a change. The whole world can now see who is fighting for free speech and who is fighting for censorship. We need to keep up our momentum. Please subscribe now to support Public's efforts so we can continue our cutting-edge investigative journalism, and consider making a donation to our efforts to build the free speech movement worldwide.
That was Michael Schellenberg, just reminding people how vital that issue was, and how Elon Musk, again, there's a lot of things I could say about Elon Musk. I can even criticize him being a free speech advocate, because a lot of the times, yes, he's made it more so than, say, Google or Facebook or any of the other social media giants that really are on the side of governmental ploys and the intelligence services. We know that they get contracts by them. And even so with Elon Musk, but at least Elon Musk is attempting to bring a platform together that allows people to express ideas and concerns regarding a matter of issues, and not putting it down a rabbit hole and narrowing down the conversation to control the narrative. At least he's willing to do that. And that's why I give him credit for this. I give him credit for, at least I'd say it's better off. I'd say Twitter is better off being in the control of this guy than it was with Jack Dorsey. But I don't consider him the advocate of all free speech, because as we saw with Israel Palestine, we know that Elon Musk is favorable of Netanyahu for the specific purposes of business correlation with Israel. We know that there's an Israeli spy agency that's coordinating with X to provide ID services to the platform. So now people that want a Twitter account, or I'm assuming it's the blue check people, now you have to show like an ID that's going to provide information to the Assad regime. It's just, it's a chaotic mess, but at least someone is willing to at least acknowledge the importance of free speech. Unlike many other people, at least they're willing to acknowledge that free speech is a vital issue and we need to do something about. We need to do something to defend it. And at least Elon Musk was one of the very few people that's willing to at least attempt to step up to the plate on that. But he is a billionaire. He does serve his masters. And by masters, I don't mean, the people of Twitter or his customers. I mean the corporate oligarchs that play towards him, that allow him to get contracts, that allow him to advance as the billionaire that he is. Because you don't get higher up in this world by good faces. You don't get up higher up by good consciousness or good morale. And a lot of these people just sell themselves out and sell off their dignity and their morals and ethics, be complete monsters and villainous against themselves, which is why a lot of these, billionaires and monopolists and the WEF, all these political powers and corporate powers are really empty inside. They're just empty versions of themselves. They're sold off of climbing that career ladder, thinking that they're so preposterous and just like this victorious person. Like, oh, I have to be this smart individual because otherwise, why wouldn't I be the CEO of this company? But they don't even realize that in order to get to that point, they sold themselves out. They took everything good about them and wiped it away. And they just become a hideous version of themselves. As philosophers once said, in better context than I did, but that's kind of the sum of it, is that they become an ugly version of themselves. And a lot of these people in these higher positions, that's why you see them, with depression and suicidal thoughts and anger and viciousness, and they demonize and attack other people, even people within their company, because they're angry at themselves, and they just feel that they had betrayed their true selves to climb up that career ladder. So anyway, the important thing is, good on behalf of free speech that we can share news stories again, at least in Australia, but we still have this global force that's still trying to impact censorship, to silence out commenters and people outside the status quo, to again put us through the narrow path of controlling the narrative that can bring us into their agenda. And anyone that stands in the way of that, anyone that critiques that, anyone that brings provisions to that, will be met with swift consequences, and they want to silence those people out.